Well, good morning, all. My name is Brent Adams, and I'm here to bring to you a training on Realist, which is your tax and public record system that integrates with your MLS listing system, Matrix. So I'm just going to run through a quick PowerPoint here for you quickly, tell you a little bit about what you're going to find in Realist, how we get some of the data to you, then we'll hop into Realist and show you how to get your business done. So those of you who've had the opportunity to log into Realist, this is effectively where you get all your work done in Realist. It's not necessarily the Realist homepage anymore, as I'll point out to you when we get into Realist itself. We've added a new dashboard in Realist, and that's going to be the new landing page, where if you don't come in from a listing, if you just come in and click into the Realist tax and public record system from somewhere in Matrix, or even from your Clarity SSO dashboard, you'll actually end up on the new Realist dashboard. But when you're trying to do searching in Realist, when you're trying to find properties in Realist, tax information, information about ownership of properties, this is where you get started. And it's split into three main parts. Over on the left-hand side, you've got your search section. So you can search for properties based on where they're located, who owns them, when they've sold, listing information, taxes, foreclosures, sales, all kinds of ways to search for properties. And when you return them, they get returned in one of two places, well, two places actually. One is over here on the map, which is on the upper right-hand side of the screen, and the other is down here below. You'll get the corresponding property showing up in a nice column and row format, so you can sort through all that information too. Now, clicking in a couple of different places is going to get you to a property detail report, and that's the flagship report in Realist. That's the report that's going to tell you, again, who owns the property, where it's located, when it's sold, 3 years worth of taxes and assessments, sale history, listing history, foreclosure history, maps, sell score, rent score, all kinds of information that we're going to provide to you as I go through the property detail report in just a moment. And then there's also a number of supplementary reports that you see up here at the top in the form of these tabs. And that's going to give you information about surrounding properties around the subject property you're looking at, whether that's a comparables report or information about the nearby neighbors or demographic information or trends that are going on near the property too. So again, we're taking maps. We take Google Maps, by the way. We take property data from your county assessor's office, from your recorder's office. We take your listing data each night. We bring it in from Matrix. And again, we give you information about the US Census, about schools, about businesses, about trends in the area. And all that is put together in one nice little package called Realist, where you can search for this information, find great pictures, great charts, wonderful maps, and share them with your clients as well. So the information that we do collect for you in terms of taxes and assessments in the state of Montana is updated annually. So once per year in each of your counties in Montana, you'll see information about taxes and assessments updated. Now, transactions like sales, mortgages, and foreclosures are going to be updated much more often than yearly. Those are going to be updated often, in many cases, daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly. I'll show you how you can check on each and every different county and see exactly how up-to-date the data in each of those counties is. We also have some indicators. We're going to be able to tell you, using some rules that we place behind the scenes, whether or not a property is owned by the bank, if a property has been sold to a third party by the bank, or even if a property is sold short at some point in the past too. Now, as I mentioned, your listing data plays a large part in this tax and public record system. We bring it in to Realist and display it right alongside tax information that we gather from your counties. And that includes photos, statuses, dates, prices, and that's for current and historical listings. Now, the other thing we do is we bring in information from your listings, and we do actually display it directly alongside information we get from the county about a property. So again, if the county says a property is 3 bedrooms, but the listing agent says it's 4 bedrooms, we'll show you that discrepancy. We're not going to tell you who's right or who's wrong, but we'll leave it up to your discretion as to which value you feel more comfortable using. If a previous owner maybe put an addition on a house, but didn't get the proper permits, maybe the listing agent knows that property has 4 bedrooms, but the county still thinks it only has 3 bedrooms. So there can be lots of reasons for those discrepancies, but pay attention to those as we go through these property detail reports. We're going to spend a lot of time on the maps in Realist too. And one of the nicest things I like about the maps, and almost over all of our core logic products, Matrix, MLS Touch as well, is the ability to walk the block, because we've got parcel boundaries on each and every one of these maps. So if you can't find a property by searching for it by address, it's a great way to just geographically find a property on the map, click on the parcel lines around surrounding that property, and you'll find out who or what owns that property. Now, those boundaries are updated annually, as are boundaries for neighborhoods, zip codes, school districts, counties as well. The one exception to those boundaries is the flood zones. Those are updated monthly. We get that information from FEMA. We want that to be as up to date for you as possible. Lots of other things we can overlay on the map too, including points of interest. So if you've got people buying or selling houses and they want to know where the nearby schools or medical facilities or places to eat or places to shop are, we can show those to you on the map from Google Maps. And then we can even show you, for example, where recent sales are, whether or not they've been processed through the Big Sky MLS, and also if they have been processed through the Big Sky MLS, we'll be able to show you all your listings, whether they're sold, actives, pendings, or expired. And we can even show you some larger kind of overarching trends, either via neighborhood or zip code boundaries, so we can let you know where there are higher levels of sales activity or sale prices or foreclosure activity. And those will be indicated by warmer colors, your reds and your yellows and your oranges. And then where there's lower levels of those activities or those prices, we'll show you those cooler colors for those little bit less activity in those areas. Now, Realist can also be used as a marketing tool as well, although with a little bit of a caveat in the state of Montana I must bring up. One of the things that we do is, again, you've got access to every single parcel of data in the state of Montana, statewide, every single parcel, whether or not it's ever been listed through the MLS. One thing that we do is we do scrub our database of addresses against the do not mail list. And there have been some laws passed recently in the state of Montana that prohibit you from directly soliciting via mail anyone whose information you've gathered from public records. I'll show you the statutes for that in just a minute. I think I've got that pulled up back in the behind the scenes, but that effectively puts every single property in the state of Montana on the do not mail list, which again, takes away a major component of what Realist can do. Realist can print out mailing labels. Now, I'll show you that you can still print out those mailing labels, but again, there are laws that prohibit you from doing this, so I will point those out to you in just a moment when we get to a little bit more of the mailing information. But we do have all the correct mailing information for these people. So again, if you need to get in contact with someone, we do have all that information for you about owners' mailing addresses, physical addresses as well. And of course, we update all the information about your community, your school, your businesses each quarter too. The other thing to know about Realist is not an app. Realist is a web-based system, just like Matrix is. There is no Realist app. However, it is a responsive design. So Realist will work on absolutely any size screen, whether that happens to be a phone, whether that happens to be a tablet, whether that happens to be an iOS device, an Android device, your laptop, your desktop. It'll work on any screen, but it's a web-based system, no app necessary for Realist. All right, with that said, let's get out of here. Let's get on my PowerPoint. Let me just rearrange a couple of things on my screen so I can kind of see what you're seeing. And also, so I can see any questions that are coming in too. You may have heard before we started, we've got Keith Hensley on the line too, who is my good friend and colleague and just all around nice guy, who is here to answer any of your questions that you might have. So you might notice over there on the right-hand side of your screen, you've got a GoToWebinar, sort of a control panel. And there's a question section over there. So if at any point you have any questions during the session, please feel free to type those in. And Keith or myself will go ahead and try to answer those to the best of our ability for you. All right, so I'm going to show you how to get into Realist first. And one of the ways I'm going to show you how to get into Realist is through Matrix. Now, you may use your Clarity SSO dashboard. You likely have a tile that'll get you directly into Realist there. But we also have the ability to get into Realist via Matrix to your listing system. And you can actually link into property detail reports from listings. So if I go into my Market Watch, for example, or any given search, a lot of times you'll even have a little thing on the one line. Let me see if I can find that. I'm going to do a residential search and just search for a couple of different properties. Maybe we'll just, narrow it down to the Bozeman city limits. That'll help, and we'll get some results. And there you are. You do have a Realist tax button on your one line via a search. So you can see if you just find a property here, any property that's been listed in the MLS, and you go ahead and click on that little icon there, it's going to take you into a property detail report in Realist. So you automatically can find all the tax information about these properties. There's the photos and everything else you need to know, who owns the property, all kinds of other information that we'll go through in just a minute. Also, if you click on the listing number itself, you'll also have those same kind of icons there. There's a Realist tax that takes you to a property detail report. There's also a neighborhood report and a Realist map. So those will effectively take you to a neighborhood profile report, and they'll also map the property for you as well. So just other ways that you can get directly into Realist via a listing in Matrix. So we'll map that property and show you right there where it is. And of course, all you need to do is double click to get into the property detail report here in Realist. All right, the other thing I want to point out, and it's something new if you've been used to using Realist for a long time, in the past, several months, we've added something called the Realist Insights dashboard, and you can toggle to it right here by going from search or over to dashboard. But one more time, I'm going to close out of Realist because I do want to point out that effectively your new homepage, when you click into Realist, from somewhere other than a listing, such as the tax tab up here at the top, and you click on Realist Tax, you now end up on the Realist Insights dashboard. So this is your new homepage. As I mentioned, it's very easy to toggle between doing your searching, clicking on search up here at the top, or going right back to the dashboard if you want to. But let's talk a little bit about the dashboard, because again, it's designed to show you sort of what's going on in your area at a glance, and also to help you do quick searches, and also even to help you find properties that you viewed recently, or even take a look at your saved searches too. So number one, you can come up here and click on search by address and start to putting in information. Whoops, I kind of put a space in there, but I start putting in 123 Main. Now, there's lots of 123 Main streets in Montana, and these are all of them. So we'll auto-complete these searches here for you. Click on one of these, and you'll actually find a property. This is an easy way to do an address search right here from the dashboard if you want to. But of course, you can do that search, from actual, being in Realist itself as well. Market temperature, that's going to give you a little bit of information about whether or not it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. Right now, we're kind of neutral. Also, if you ever have any questions about what any of these widgets are telling you, feel free to hover over the little eye icon next to any of them, whether it's market temperature or quick stats, and we'll tell you a little bit about how we gathered this data and what exactly it's telling you. Quick stats, for example, are a 90-day trend. So we've got 106 closed sales, which is down 39%. Pending sales, active listings also all down, which is not surprising when it get into the colder months here. Months of inventory is up. Average days on market is up, and sale to list price ratio is 95%. We've also got some more stats about average sale price or change in MLS sales activity. The other thing I want to point out is all these stats are showing me right now, and you can see it down here at the bottom. They're showing them to me in Gallatin County, Montana. Now, if you'd like to change these counties or even add additional counties, you can. So if you want to click on Select County, it's a very similar interface as you would expect to see when you're doing searches in Realist. But for example, I could also add Flathead County if I wanted to as well and hit apply. And now I'm looking at stats in Flathead and Gallatin. These average sale prices are showing me two different bar charts. So I'm getting information about the changes in both of those counties. So it's very easy to select one or multiple counties. I'll hang out here in Gallatin County for the most part today, but just understand that you can change whatever county you're searching in at any given time in Realist. That's what the stats are reflecting here on the Insights dashboard too. So more about Insights. You can actually get into our CoreLogic Twitter feed if you want to. So here are some tweets that we've put out recently. You want to know what's going on within the real estate market in the larger, in the United States area. You can actually go through any of these or click on one of these and go right into Twitter if you'd like to. Scrolling down even further, we've got more information about property market insights. This takes you to the CoreLogic blog. So if you've got questions or you see an article that sort of piques your interest, you can feel free to click on any of these too. Continuing in with that industry news, we've also got links out to Inman. Now, this doesn't necessarily guarantee you a subscription to Inman. We are going to be adding more news sources here in the industry news section. So you'll have more than just Inman, but of course, if you have a subscription, you'll be able to get to those articles. But we've got a few of those in here, and you can scroll through those as well. And then we've got a lot of information about, for example, your last view properties. So this will let me know any properties that I've viewed recently. You can see in preparation for today's demo, I was kind of looking around in Realist and I was clicking on a few different properties, and you can see what days I was clicking around on them and how easy I can get to them if I want to. I simply just need to click on one and it'll take me right into the property detail report for that home. That's the one we were looking at a moment ago. But here, let me toggle back to the dashboard for a minute, still show you a couple more things down here. Also, your saved searches. So any searches that you've saved are now accessible from here. And you can also create a brand new search from here too. And then lastly, any properties you've saved. That's that little star icon that you put on those properties. If you've starred any properties, they're now going to show up here in your saved properties. And then the last thing to know is that you can actually customize this dashboard if you want to as well. And you can do that in a couple of different ways. Number one, up here at the very top, you've got the little Manage Widgets button up here. So that will allow you to access a pop-up and potentially turn off or turn on some of these widgets. So here, let me just show you, not only can you do it there, but you can also, for example, click on right here, this little sort of snowman icon, and you can click on Manage Widgets here too. So maybe I want to turn off this industry news if I want to do that. And you can see some of them are grayed out, by the way. So market trends, market temperature, a few of those ones you see at the top can't be removed, but some of these others can. So for example, industry news that you see lit up in blue, I can click on that, click Save Changes, and industry news goes away. I can even drag different widgets in different places. So if I want to drag any of these widgets, I can click on Drag Widget and put my saved searches, right up there at the very top if I want to. And then last viewed properties kind of takes up all the information down here at the bottom. And don't forget, if I want to put that industry news widget back, I can click on Manage Widgets, scroll down, hover over that industry news that's grayed out, and then turn it back on if I want to too. So again, arrange whichever widgets you want in any place and also turn them on or off if you want to. But this new dashboard is really designed to just sort of show you what's going on at a glance, give you a little bit of information about what's happening in your area, and give you access to all the latest news that's going on in your area too. But let's get into Realist itself and start showing you how to do some stuff. So again, it's split into three major parts, this Realist search section. And that's going to be, again, the search area over here on the left, the map over here on the right, the grid down here at the bottom. But you can also customize this to really kind of suit whatever needs you're doing. So if you search for a property and you don't decide that you don't need any of these search attributes anymore, you can hide it. And if you want to use more map tools and really search on a map, you can either click and drag here or work with more properties on the grid, give yourself a lot of room there, click and drag here. And then don't forget, there's buttons over here that do effectively the same thing. Make Realist one big map, make Realist one big list, or go back to that split view too. And then, of course, you can bring back the search section. Now, Realist is a county-based system. I mentioned I'll be doing searches in Gallatin County, Montana for you today. And you'll also notice when I hover over Gallatin County, it gives me a recording date. It says February 7th, 2024. What that means for you is if there was a recorded deed of sale or if a property sold and that deed was recorded at Gallatin County after February 7th, you wouldn't find that recorded deed of sale here in Realist. So basically, we're missing about 7 days of history here. Not too bad in the world of public records, getting a property sold or a mortgage, getting that information recorded at the county level and into Realist. We're doing that all within 7 days, which is pretty darn good. Now, you can search within multiple counties if you want to, or other counties if you like. And as I mentioned, you've got statewide coverage in the state of Montana. Now, you've already seen me highlight Flathead. I can highlight Garfield or Deer Lodge or Daniels or multiple others. And what I want to point out is each of these different counties has their own individual recording dates too. So some of these counties are going to get us information a little bit quicker than others. Jefferson is only up to date as of February 1st. Deer Lodge, February 5th. Flathead, February 6th. Gallatin, February 7th. And as you log in each and every day, you'll get to see how up to date each and every one of these counties are before you do any searches in them. And by the way, you can search in up to 12 counties at one time if you'd like to. But I'll do my searches in Gallatin County today. And then there's two different search forms, I should say. First one is your quick search. And I tell people about 90% of people who come into Realist are just looking for one property. And if you're looking for just one property, you'll probably have an address or an owner name or a listing number or potentially a tax ID number to search for it. The other thing that we do on this quick search section is we give you a couple of tools that make searching a little bit easier for you. You saw earlier I started to put in 123 Main. So we'll automatically complete that information. Also, aside from automatically completing it, if I leave this starts with wildcard search on, I will find, all of those 1, 2, 3 mains. There's going to be 2 of them, as you can see, in Gallatin County right now, but I'm only finding the ones in Gallatin. Now, if you do change it to is, you need to spell the information that we put in exactly as it's stored in our database. So I like to leave that starts with wildcard turned on, and I do it for all these search attributes. You may be looking for a property that John Smith owns down the street, but maybe it's the John Smith Living Trust or John Smith LLC. So those are different ways to, again, have properties ownerships listed, and you might want to, again, leave those wildcards on just to make sure you're finding everything you need. Listing number, same thing. You can put in a partial listing number and it'll find anything that starts with those numbers. And also you've got plus signs next to most of these search attributes, so you can add multiple values to almost all of them. So if I want to search by 1 listing number or 2 listing numbers or 3 listing numbers, you can add them all here and then of course take that information out if you're uninterested in finding all those. Same thing with tax ID. Now, my search is designed a little bit more for our power users. This allows you to create your own customized searches to find properties that match the criteria you're looking for. Now, the property in question here that I'm looking up, I'm just looking for a sample property because I just want to find you guys one property. But there are lots of other searches here. You can see multiple searches that I've used in the past trying to find different properties. But we've also got things like our administrative searches, which can't be deleted. They can't be gotten rid of. You can use them and build off of them and save from them. It's like a foreclosure and distress search. That'll allow you to find properties, that are potentially going into foreclosure at some point in the future or have at some point in the past. That could be a helpful search for many of you. But you can also create your own custom searches too. So if you click on Customize Search, you have the ability to either build off of one of the searches that already exist, or you can create your own new custom search. Give it a name if you'd like to, and then decide how to build that search. Now, we've got lots of search attributes. You can build it with up to 30 different search attributes, and we try to organize them into logical sections such as who owns the property, where it's located, physical characteristics that the home might have. Here's the listing information that's searchable for you that we bring in from Matrix on a nightly basis, your assessment and tax, sales and foreclosure, and mortgage as well. So if you want to find a property in a certain city with a certain number of bedrooms and a certain number of bathrooms and a certain number of square foot and has an exterior wall made of stone, and has a veterans exemption on it, again, you can create that search and find properties that match exactly what you're looking for. So that's how you can create custom searches in Matrix. I just canceled out of there. Had I saved that search, it would then appear in my drop down here. But let's go back to, which one was that? That was 811 O'Connell was the one I was going to search on. And I get 811 in the house, O'Connell in the street name. By the way, you can save search forms, and you can also save the information that's in those search attributes too. So you can actually save data in there. Look, there's my street suffix as well. And when I run that search, I'm going to find the property at 811 O'Connell Drive. It'll place a little push pin on the map showing me where it is. The red indicates it was a sold property through the MLS. And then, of course, you've got it down here at the very bottom, too. I think there was a better one than I wanted to search as well. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was 1803 Black. Let me find that one. And I like that one because not only do I have the fact that it's sold, but I've got photos for this one, too. And I want to show you the photos. The other thing to point out is when you find a property that's been listed in Matrix, in Realist, and it's got this little link on it, you can actually click on that little sold link, and it will take you back into Matrix, into the entire listing history for this particular property. And there it is. You can see those 2 different listings that this property's had placed on it. So that's our reverse link. I'm going to close back out of there and go back into Realist. When you get this pop-up, you also have the ability here, direct link to MLS, to link back into Matrix as well. Now let's get into a property detail report, and so you show you some information there. Lots of different ways I can do that. Number one, I can click on report in the pop-up. I can actually double click down here on the grid, or I can click on reports down here at the bottom. All of these will open up that new suite of reports sort of in front of that map, and then give you all the information you need on a property detail report. So the first thing you get up here is the fact of where the property is located. You can favorite this property. If I follow or favorite this property, not only does it add it up here in my little star in my saved properties, but it also saves it back out there on my dashboard in those saved properties too. So that's a new thing that's just happened in about the past month in Realist. But when this property has been listed, especially up here at the top, you're going to see a combination of both MLS data and tax data up here. Anything with an MLS prefix is coming from your listings, and anything that's not, of course, is coming from tax and public records. We've got a photo for the property because it was sold back in 2022. So all that information is going to be available for you here in this nice little photo carousel. And you can just kind of scroll through all these photos. So these were all the photos from when this property sold. But remember, this property sold a little over than 2 years ago. So these photos are likely 2 years old. And of course, if you have an actively listed property, you'll see those photos there too. We can see who owns the property, David and Masako, the Walshes, and we match up their tax billing address, where they get their information, their tax information sent every year, to the physical address of this property. And that's what allows us to determine whether or not it's owner occupied. The other thing I'll point out is something I mentioned in the PowerPoint. Every single property that you ever view in Realist in the state of Montana is going to say this next to it: no mail. And I'll mention again, here is that actual law. It looks like it's 2-6-1017. And it's really just letting us know that you can't use public records information, such as I'm telling you right now, and I'm showing you right now, to, again, directly solicit people. So if you want to do a just sold mailing, again, I can show you how to do it here. But it is technically against the law. I don't know what the penalties for that is, but if you did want to look up that statute, it is 2-6-1017. Moving down a little bit lower, something new we've also added to our Realist Property Detail Report recently is our Community Insights section. And that's just going to give you a little bit of information about what's going on in the neighborhood here. What's the median home value in the area? What's the crime risk score? What are the schools? What school district are we in? And how have kids done on their state standardized test scores recently? Is it a walkable area? What's the Q1 home price forecast? So all good information that you can find out that's just letting you know what the trends are in this neighborhood. We then get down into the location information section. This is all, again, coming from tax data directly. So you get things like your township, your section, and your range if you're someone who's used to searching by some of those. You know, the topography, your flood zone information, the lot and the block. Lots of sort of distinguishing features about these properties. Tax information. It's going to give you several different tax IDs, a short one, a long one, and even a long one that's formatted. When you're searching by tax ID in Realist, any of these will be, we'll search on any of these values, I should say, concurrently. You'll notice the long geocode is hyperlinked. That will actually take you out to your county website, to the card for this property. So effectively where we're getting all this information, we're giving you the source right here. So you can see, again, the deed information, you know, the appraisal history, you know, everything, physical characteristics about the property. You know, effectively what you're seeing here is, again, on your county or one of your government sites. But we're bringing in all that information here into Realist, but we're giving you where the source is. We're showing you where we're pulling it from. We'll also show you 3 years of assessment and tax, and we'll give you the dollar and percentage change year over year. It's a rolling 3-year period, so as 2024's taxes and assessments come in, you'll see 2021's drop off. We get into the physical characteristics now. Here's where we start to show you information kind of concurrently with tax and MLS information. The only one I see that's showing any sort of discrepancy right here is the basement type. According to the tax, it's partial. According to the listing, it's 2 bedrooms, 1 full bath, a family room, full finished. So that's a sort of a mismatch of terms there. But I'll show you what happens more often than not. For example, building square footage. You know, when I hover over that, we're only getting that from the tax record. Bedrooms and bathrooms, when you hover over those, you can see, you know, whether you're getting them from 2 sources or just one different source. You know, there's only about 9 or 10 fields we do this for, mostly bedrooms, bathrooms, year built, a couple of square footage fields. But effectively, you'll find everything you need to know about the physical characteristics of this home here. Sometimes you'll get some extra features. These aren't particularly helpful that I notice in this table down here. I'm not sure what 1134 or RPA2 are. You can do a little bit of detective work, usually, you know, 360 square feet. You know, maybe that's probably referring to the unfinished basement area, not sure. But again, you've got a lot of that information down here. It won't always be in these codes. We then put some proprietary values on these properties too. We'll give you, for example, a sell score indicator, and that's a number from 0 to 1,000 that indicates the relative likelihood that this property is going to be listed for sale in the next 6 months. Right now, this one's set at 623. This is a searchable field too. So again, a good way to find properties that might be listed for sale in the next 6 months. Another feature, or another value, I should say, we put on these properties is an estimated value, $837,500. It's what we think this property would sell for if it were to sell today. And we don't just give you this value and kind of let you run with it. We tell you, is this a good value or is this a bad value? Do we have enough information to make this a good AVM, automated valuation model? And the answer is, in this case, we do, because we've got a confidence score of 96 and a forecast standard deviation of 6, which means we think there's a 96% chance this property is going to be listed between plus or minus 6% of $837,000. So that's pretty darn good. You don't see many confidence scores higher than that or forecast standard deviations lower than that. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about those, it's down here in the fine print, but that'll really kind of just let you read through it in sort of layman's terms. Something else new that we've added recently are your rental trends, what this property might fetch for monthly rent if it were put up for rent. We'll give you a low, we'll give you a high, and we'll give you that estimated value here too. Now, you may like these values, the rental trends, the estimated value, the sell score indicator. You may like to use them as a tool for yourself. But if for some reason you're not interested in sharing them, for example, when you print or when you email these reports out of Realist, both of which you can do, you can customize this report and just about any other report by clicking on Customize View. So if you'd like to get rid of, for example, that sell score or those rental trends, or let's see, those community insights, you can go ahead and hit apply after unchecking those boxes. And now you've gotten rid of all those different sections. I've got my estimated value in there, but I took out my rental trends. I took out my sell score. I took out those community insights that we had up here at the top. And this is now how that property report will print or will email if you send it out. Now, don't forget, if you've taken out those sections, you've taken them out effectively for every property in Realist, so you do need to put them back if you ever do want to see them again for any other properties. And I've just put them back now. And now I've got all those different sections of those reports coming right back in here, right down to rental trends. Next is your listing information section. This is the whole listing history for this property. Remember, we had one that was canceled back in 2021, and we've got the actively listed property now. This is yet another link that takes you back into Matrix, into that listing history. Certainly, we've got a snapshot of it here, but to get back into that full listing history, you can go back into Matrix if you'd like to, too. We then move back into public sales, public records sale information. So, for example, there's usually a nice little linear sales history here. You know, we've got sales history back to 1995 when Harriet bought this property. She sold to Jay Cowan in 2012. Then he turned around and sold to the Walshes in 2022, and this property is now being listed for sale, as you can see. So that's sort of the sale history for this property. You'll also find mortgage histories for these properties in many cases too. Mortgage originations only. This one doesn't have any mortgages, but if I find one later for you, I'll show you. It'll be that section right below this sale history section. And then here's a map letting you know the estimated lot dimensions on this property and where it's located in terms of major cross streets and things of that nature. And then your name and the name of the association is always down here at the bottom if you choose to print out either this report or multiple reports. Right here as PDFs, or also if you want to email them out. Quick email will again email just this one report that you're on now. That goes for any other reports. Customize will actually let you choose any of the reports that I'm about to go through with you and decide how many of them you want to email from Realist. Next, I'll go to a comparables report. Again, this is the flagship report in Realist. This is the one you're going to find the most information on. Mortgages, sales, listing history, all the different values we place on these properties, the physical characteristics, assessment and tax, and anything you need to know about the ownership of the home. The rest of these reports are really designed to show you what's going on around the area. Number one is a comparables report. This is a very simple comparables report, particularly compared to the one you might run in Matrix, but it's a simple one-button comp report. I press this comps button, I am automatically finding 20 comps. You can see where they're located on the map. And you can see a list of them down below, and you can kind of scroll through them and decide which ones you want to include or not include in your comp report. Now, you might be wondering why I came up with these 20 comps, and the answer to that lies, again, in the search criteria. You're going to find that for a lot of reports, too. There's going to be some underlying defaults behind a lot of these reports. And in terms of comparables, there's quite a lot. You can ask for as few as 5 or as many as 50 comps. You can sort them a number of different ways. You can include some different values that we place on these properties, many of which I've showed you. You can decide what sort of physical characteristics the comps have that you're going to return. I just found 20. Maybe that's way too many. Maybe I want to go down to only a mile away and find these comps. Or should they have a pool? Or what should their sale price have been? Or how many bedrooms or bathrooms or stories should they have? Again, use these drop downs, or in many cases, you can use the freeform entry box to narrow down any of these comps any way you want to. You can decide to keep them in the same city or zip or subdivision depending on where your subject property is located. You can go back a certain number of months, as many as 12 from today's date, or use your own date range and go back, for example, as many years as you want to, to find these comps. Go back to January of last year and you can find all these comps if you'd like to as well. But I'll just go back 12 months right now. Living and building area and lot area difference function really exactly the same. It's all about keeping the comparable properties that you've returned within a certain threshold of square footage of the home or lot area of the subject property too. So for example, lot area set to none. If I'm comping a property on a 1-acre parcel, I could be returning a property down the street on a 10-acre parcel or a 1/10 of an acre parcel. But living and building area right now is set to 20%. So if I were comping a 1,000 square foot home, I wouldn't return any comps that were larger than 1,200 or smaller than 800 square feet. And of course, I can use my drop downs to make that specific, or even the free-form entry box, so totally up to you. Land use code is one I like to leave as same as subject. If I'm comping a single-family residential home, I probably want to return other single-family residential homes as comps, not condos. And then style is one I recommend people stay away from. It's not information that always is collected on properties in all of your counties in the state of Montana. So if the state of Montana doesn't care about what a style of property these are, then Realist isn't going to have that information if it's not being passed to us. And you may end up finding 0 comps if you use some of these, depending on where you're searching. So I changed something. I changed it to just a mile. So I'll click on Save and Submit, and that'll change my defaults permanently going forward for any comp report that I run. So I had 20. It looks like they were all still within a mile. I still found 20. But if I scroll up and kind of look at some of these properties, I can look at some of the sale prices and see, $1.7 million. I'm comping a $775,000 property. That seems, rather high. Come down here to one for $395. I can uncheck that one. That's rather low. There's another one for $1 million. Maybe some of these other properties are just a little too far away from me. So I want to, uncheck some of these. So rather than use 20, I get down to 11. And once I get down to these 11, you can see where they are on the map. And I can actually click on Generate Report. And this is your comp report itself. Again, it'll show you your subject property near the Montana State University, and it'll show you where all the properties are nearby. It'll show you the search criteria you used to find those comps, a summary of all those comps, subject, high, low, median, and average of all your comps, and then the comp report itself. There's my subject property, comps 1, 2, 3, 4. Out to the right, I had 11. So, you can keep scrolling out and find all these comps. Nice column and row format. By the way, of course, here's some of that concurrent data. So, for example, if you were looking for comps with only 5 bedrooms, you would have found this property. If you were looking for comps only exactly 4 bedrooms, you also would have found this property. So here's sort of that tax and MLS discrepancy. Just know that we search both of those values concurrently. And that's your comp report. That's about it for that one. What I'll show you next is your neighbors report. And your neighbors report is extremely similar to your comparables report, but all it's doing is finding your nearby closest neighbors. So yet again, I'm going to visit the search criteria section. You can find as many as 20 neighbors, so 30 actually, as far away as 3 miles from your subject property. And you could even keep them in the same street, subdivision, among other things. But that's effectively it. That's all you can do with your neighbors report. And here it is. It looks just like your comp report, except these aren't comps. These are just your physically closest nearby neighbors. I always call it your nosy neighbors report. It's if you're looking to, or you got someone looking to buy this property on Black Avenue, and people want to know, hey, what's going on with my nearby properties around here? Why is their property so much smaller than mine? Looks like I'm next to a lot of condos. It's good information to have. Why are their taxes so much less than mine? It's your nosy neighbors report, kind of. But that's your neighbors report. It really functions just like your comparables report, just designed to show you your nearby neighbors. What I'll move to next is a couple of reports that are going to show you kind of some trends and demographics, and I will start with market trends. Now, market trends has been updated recently as well, and what you might notice is it looks a lot like some of the information that we provide to you on that dashboard. So again, closed sales, average sale price, active listings, days on market, price per square foot, sale price to list price ratio. And that's, again, just for this zip code here, 59715. Scrolling down a little bit lower, a couple of different charts. Average sale price, average sale to original list price ratios. Now, average sale price can be broken down by sales that were only processed through the Big Sky MLS or all sales, tax sales. So again, you can toggle between those if you'd like to and see how those stats differ. Average sale to original list price ratio clearly is only coming from your listing data. Average price per square foot for MLS or for tax, number of sales for MLS or for tax, and change in sales activity just for MLS or just for tax as well. So we can show you what's been going on and show you what the basic trends are in your area. So, change in sales activity, not surprisingly, we see a lot of properties being going for sale in the spring and the summer, not so many in the winter. So that's the market trends, and those will update for you periodically. As far as demographic information, we can include the neighborhood profile report for you as well. So this is all U.S. Census data for the most part, at least the top portion of this report. And we'll show you things like stats on population, age, gender, marital status, housing stats, average sale price for a house, what year were these properties built, are they owned, are they rented, are they vacant, what are people paying in rents for homes of various sizes, quality of life, where do people work, household income each year, commute method, the weather, level of education that people have attained in the area. That's all coming from the most recent U.S. Census. Now, there's also information about schools. And let me, again, before I get too much further down, go to my search criteria section. So this will affect, for example, the types of businesses you return in this report. And I'm going out 10 miles, which is why I'm finding an absolute ton. So maybe I'll bring that down to, I'm in Bozeman, so maybe we'll bring it down to about 2. And also different types of businesses. So everything that has a check is over here in my selected section. You can uncheck them or X them out, but you can find all these different business categories. Same thing for schools. Maybe I'll, again, narrow this down to maybe about 2 miles. And here's all the different types of educational institutions you can search for near this property too. And I'll go ahead and I'll hit save and submit. It's going to regenerate that report for me. Let me scroll through all this census information again. And then here we are, a little smaller group of schools, public elementary, middle and high school, private schools. For public schools, we'll even give you some rating systems. So we'll give you the great schools ratings, how the kids did on their state standardized test scores the year previous. And there's also the ability to go out to great schools and, have parents and teachers, rate those schools themselves. And that's what those stars are there. So here's all the schools that are nearby and some stats that go along with them. Businesses as well. We'll always give you the type of business it is, phone number, the distance from your subject property. So, if you've got a place you want to go eat or drink, we've got all that information for you here right nearby this particular property. Plenty of places to go within a half mile of this home. All right, a couple other maps I'll show you. Number one, a flood map. And this flood map is great because it's actually interactive, and it's going to, if you scroll down, show you exactly if this property is or is not in a flood zone. And this one happens to be, looks like in multiple flood zones to me. It's in X500 and it's in A. So this one is in multiple flood zones. We're going to give you all the stats about this property. By the way, click on any of these headers and we'll let you know, exactly what distance to, the 100-year floodplain means, or what a FIPS code is, or anything else that you need to know. We'll give you some pop-ups here. Now, aside from this flood map, there is a premium flood map that's available as well. And this may be a good candidate for it too. You can download a sample report. What this will do is, and I guess they are $19.99 a pop, but what this will do is it'll not only give you the standard flood map, it'll also give you a premium flood map where you'll get a flood risk score and a flash flood risk score, in addition to a little bit of extra information down here too. So, if someone's looking at buying a property and you're noticing it's in multiple flood zones, this is good information to have. They may need extra flood insurance. This report could pay off for you in that case. So that may be a good instance in which you might want to pay for that report. Hazards and risks is another pay-to-play report. You can download a sample. Really, what it's going to include, I'll open this one for you too. And what this one is going to include is all kinds of information. Now, some of which might not necessarily be pertinent to your specific area, but it's a summary up here at the top. Crime risk, earthquake risk, not too much of a big deal in Montana as of right now. Tornadoes, also not too big of a deal, but straight line winds, possibly. Wildfire risk, absolutely. And distance to fire station, also all good information to have. Don't forget, we do this in 3,000 different counties. So as we get lower down into this report, we're going to have tsunami and lava evacuation zones. But here's just a kind of a brief look at what you would get in this report if you decided to download it, or if you decided to pay for it for this particular property. So you can download these and see what your wildfire risk is, among other things. Just wanted to show that one to you too. With that said, we're pretty much done with reports. So I've gone through every single one of these reports with you. Don't forget, property detail, the one you're probably going to end up spending the most time on. But let me hit the back button here, and let's take a look at some information on the maps. So number one, we've got a lot of different map tools. Well, first of all, we can change from a road map to a satellite map if we want to. We can change from a satellite to a hybrid, where you throw those street names and things on there. And we can even go to a terrain map, which in an area like yours is relatively important. You can see where the valleys and the peaks are. As we scroll out a little bit, you kind of get to kind of that look of that terrain map too. Now, when you find yourself scrolled way out like this, you can always hover over that little pop-up. And you can see I favorited a property. I can also unfavorite it from right here too, just by clicking on that. I can also take a look at the photos for this home, go into the report. I can quickly zoom down into it, and I can even estimate the lot dimensions right here on the parcel itself. So all good things that you can do on this map. I'll leave it on road map for the most part, easy for me to kind of see things. But you can also click next door. This is that walk the block feature I was talking about. You know, who lives next to me on this side? Who lives next to me? Who's across the street from me? All you have to do is just click on a rooftop and you can find out more about a home. Even these condos, or if you find some vacant land and it doesn't have an address on it, it's a great way to find properties. So let's talk a little bit about some of the map tools you have available to you kind of up here. And number one, you can draw shapes on the map and find properties only within those shapes if you want to. So you can draw a circle or a rectangle or even a polygon. So, you know, if I decide I only want to find these properties south of Hoffman, and I still want to include some of these ones that back up to open space, you know, I'll draw a very unique shape, as you can see, and then it actually adds something called Polygon 1 to that search. So I can even save this search with this shape attached to it too. Now, I'm searching for 1803 Black Street right now still, so let's take that out. Let's take all those out. And I'm about to find, potentially, 101 different properties. Now, maybe you're hunting for properties that might be listed for sale soon. So one of the ways you can do that is you can scroll down here to the bottom. I don't really have a way to search by sales score yet, but watch, I can customize this search. I can scroll down. I can go and add my sales score and hit save or even apply, and that'll add it there. And then I can find properties that only have a sales score maybe higher than, let's say, 600. I changed it to is greater than there. And I've got 70 matches. Maybe that's still too many. I can put it up to 700, maybe a really high sales score. And that brings me down to 35 matches. So now I'm only going to find properties with a high propensity to sell, just 35 of them. You can see where they're located, probably a lot of them in one of these condo complexes. And not only are they here on the map, they're also down here on the grid. Now, there are lots of things that you can do with these properties. This is the part where I have to be a little bit disappointing for a lot of you. Yes, we do have the ability to print labels. However, what'll end up happening if you end up printing these labels, and again, you can use the tax billing address or the property address. You can show a current owner, eliminate duplicates, you know, throw custom labels on there. But the issue is when you create these labels, I will show you really quickly that you can print them out, but every single one of them says no mail next to them. So I do want to point that out, just want to show you it is a feature that Realist has, but there are some issues, again, with some of the laws in Montana that prohibit you from, again, sending these out as mailers. What you can do is you can export this information into a spreadsheet if you'd like to. So for example, quick export will be kind of what you see is what you get. As many properties as I have checked here on the left, and all the columns of data I have up here up on the top are exactly what's going to export. But if you wanted to do a customized export, and you wanted to, you know, do an owner mailing export, like as a template that I have saved. Again, select as many of these 188 fields of data as you want and save them as templates if you want to. But also what you can do is again, just export, you know, assessment data or tax data or sales data. You know, if you're someone who's, Excel wizard, you can do pivot tables and figure out where sale prices or assessments are going. But here I've got one where I've just kind of exported all the tax billing information. So I can click export, and then all the ownership information for all 35 of those properties I just searched on is now going to be available to me in an Excel spreadsheet. As long as I click on that download there we go. And there you go, all the mailing information that you could possibly need for all these properties now in a spreadsheet. And you can imagine, again, what you can do with some of the numbers that you can export too. Also great information to see exactly where people live. You know, I'm looking at properties in Bozeman. Here's people in Denver or Santa Fe or San Francisco or Texas that own these properties too. So those are all different ways to export information out of Realist. I think another one that I did show you is don't forget the print and the email buttons that were available on all the property reports are also available here on the map and the grid too. So here we give you the ability not only to print out reports, but also the map, also the table that you're seeing down here below, and even the card view, which I'll talk a little bit more about with you in a minute. But that's basically exporting information out of Realist. All right, let's make Realist another one big map again. I'm going to hit clear all over here. And this, well, here, I'm going to hit clear all up here on the map tools first. Remember I drew a shape? It's going to get rid of that shape, but that's all it does. It gets rid of the map tools up here. Clear all down here gets rid of everything. So it gets rid of anything you put in your search box, anything that's here in your grid, and anything that's here on the map too. They all go away. So that's one way you can do that too. But with that said, let's go through a couple other map tools. I showed you again the ability to draw shapes and find properties within them. Parcel lines, of course, you can turn on or off if you'd like. Neighborhood boundaries. So these are all the different boundaries I'm going to light up. Now, in your more highly populated urban areas, such as Bozeman, we're going to have a lot of these different neighborhoods. But as you get a little bit more rural, you're not going to see quite as many. Also, you can put a lot of these different overlays on top of the map at the same time, though. So there's zip code, for example. There's a city boundary. There's a county boundary. There's my school district boundaries. I've now kind of maxed myself out. Plus, the map gets pretty busy at this point. If you ever want to turn these off, you can always click down here on the legend, and all of these will get turned off for you as well. Other boundaries, the ones I find most interesting are the school districts. You know, if people want to understand, you know, which high school district is my property zoned for? Or how about middle school? That'll probably be a little bit smaller than some of the high school. There we are. There's Sacagawea, there's Anderson 7 to 8, there's Lamont 6 to 8. You know, you can see exactly what properties or what schools these properties are zoned for those schools there. And then lastly, there's a flood zone. I showed you your static flood zone map. Well, we've also got one that is interactive here, and you can use it on your Google Maps. So if I just hold down Control and click, I can even get a little bit more information about that panel here from FEMA if you want to find that information too. All right, those are all your overlays. Next, what I want to show you, and I do want to scroll a little bit closer down into Bozeman, I will show you some other things that we can put on individual parcels, like distressed properties, pre-foreclosure, auction, bank-owned sales. Let's see how many of these start lighting up. Not too many, which is a good thing. That's what we want to see. But I'm not seeing too many show up at all here. Here's one that'll be interesting. That is a auction. So this is a property that's scheduled to go to auction here in green. If I go ahead and click on that, and I go into the reports for that property, we're going to give you an additional tab, and it's the foreclosure tab. So this is going to tell me a little bit about what's going on with this property. So there was a recorded notice of trustee sale on this property back in October of 2023. What that ended up meaning is, and here's all the trustee information and everything like that, this property is scheduled to go to auction March 22nd, 2024 at 311 West Main Street at 2 o'clock in Bozeman. I'm going to guess that's your county courthouse. So again, this is a great piece of information you have about this home. It's scheduled to go to auction. Maybe these people are looking to list it. You know, you could list this property. That's a good opportunity. Also, we'll show any foreclosure history there might be associated with this property, or the mortgage in question, you know, that was defaulted upon as well. So that's some good information that you can get about some of these properties. Let me scroll out a bit more. I was hoping to find a few more little dots around here for you so I could show you maybe some bank-owned properties. Here's one that's a bank-owned sale. This one's in blue. I'll point out this one because we call this a distressed sale. Because what happens with this one is usually a bank has sold this to a third party. That's why we call it a bank/REO sale. There's really no extra tab for this one. You'll need to scroll down and you'll need to go into the sales history for this one. And you can usually see, Glacier Bank sold this to somebody called MVGR Land LLC. And you'll find properties like this where, again, people are flipping houses or buying them from the bank and turning them around. So also good ways, to find distressed properties. As I mentioned, you can also find properties that are owned by the bank too. So those are just a few. All right, let's scroll out a little bit further. Let's get rid of that old pop-up there. You can also see where all the tax sales are. These are sales according to tax record over the past 3 months. So these are sales that weren't necessarily processed through your MLS. And you can set that to 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. Now your MLS status will show you all your active, pending, and expired properties over a specific time period. And effectively, there's your inventory. Lots of actively listed properties here on Main Street, couple of solds up here, there's an expired, there's a pending, and again, click on any of those and you can drill down deeper into the sales history for those properties too, and I'll turn those off. And then lastly, what you can overlay on the map, if I get in a little bit closer for you, is you can place all kinds of things on the map in terms of property characteristics, like the bedroom and bathroom count, or the lot area, or potentially the square footage of the buildings on these parcels too. So all those things can be overlaid on top of the maps. All right, now let's scroll out to a bit of a 30,000 foot view, and let me show you some trends. We'll go way out because your zip codes are pretty big here in Montana. And we will show you, for example, that I can show you where properties are selling and where properties aren't selling by zip code. We can aggregate them by neighborhood. Remember, those neighborhood boundaries are not that prolific. There aren't many of them. And you can look at them for different property types too. But effectively, what I'm showing you here is, in green, we're selling more properties in Bozeman. So 59715, 53 sales here. But go over towards Livingston, only 23 sales over that same rolling 3-month period. And there's a lot of different trends that you can show here. You can show your percentage of homes in foreclosure as well. And again, play with any of those other tools that you like to. All right, let's scroll way back down into Bozeman again. And let's get in towards Main Street, because I can show you that we can put points of interest on the map. Banks, places to eat, places to shop. So you can click on any of these. And if you want to click on one, you can go eat at Urban Kitchen. Or down the street, you can go eat at the Squire House. So we've got information about all those places. These are all coming in from Google Maps, so you can put those on top of the map. A couple other things. I'm starting to run out of time a little bit here too, and I don't want to keep you guys too late, but I'll try to get you out of here in the next 10 minutes or so. Thanks for your patience. You can put driving directions on the map if you want to. So for example, if I want to figure out how to get from 123 Main Street in somewhere in Montana, how about Bozeman? That'll help. And then maybe I'll go to 1803 Black. I think, was it Avenue? Might have been. We'll try and put in Montana. There it is, South Black. That's what it was. And you can get your turn-by-turn directions if you want to. So you'll actually, and that one kind of, there it is. You can show your turn-by-turn directions. That's a 6-minute drive, so not a big deal, but you can email these out to someone, or you can clear that out if you'd like to too. The other thing to know, and I can clear those. Let's do that. I'll hit clear all. The other one I like, again, you can measure things on the map if you want to. You can annotate the map with a little thought bubble if you want to. I like Find on Map. I think it's great for finding things that wouldn't necessarily be findable by your search attributes over here on the left. If you've got someone who really wants to live near Montana State University, we certainly all know where it is. We can see it, and you all as people who are near Bozeman probably know, but it'll find that for you. It'll actually place a little push pin there on the map and show you where Montana State is, and that's not something you could ever search for over here. We're using any of these search attributes. So those are all your map tools. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to a split view, and I'm just going to fill up the map with a whole lot of people. Let's just do, I wouldn't do a Smith search. We'll be here all day. But Wilkins, there you go. You got 29 results. So we can pull all those folks up. And what I want to point out is if you hover over a property here on the grid and you click on it, we'll pop it right up to the top there. So you'll be able to see those properties, and we'll give you that little pop-up. So that's kind of how the grid and the map work together. But let's make Realist one big list now. And I want to point out what happens. We've now toggled from that list view to this card view. And by the way, you can do that manually up here in the upper right-hand corner. Right now we're on card view. I can always toggle back to this grid or this table view if I want to as well. The card view is really helpful, and this is where it comes in the responsive design nature of Realist. As I mentioned, Realist is not an app. It's a web-based system. We're on a web address up here. But if I were watching this or looking at Realist on something the size of my phone, and I shrunk it down to, let's say that's, sort of effectively phone size, and ignore my messy background there. But you can now do a search the way you were always able to before. You can see properties on the map, and you can use any of these tools, whether it's boundaries, whether it's trends, whether it's points of interest. If you want the list of properties, you can imagine just swiping down with your finger. You find a property you're interested in, you give it a tap. And now your property detail report is showing everything you need to see here on a very abridged screen. It's a lot more skinny. And again, you can scroll over to the right and see a few things. All of that tax information here on one point. All the tabs go away. So you can't get to a comp report unless you tap up here on property details. And that's your comp report, your neighbors report, your flood map. You've got a couple other things you can do in terms of customizing your view or your email buttons too. Now watch what happens as the wider it gets, those tabs come back. But look how everything just sort of snaps to. That's the responsive design nature of Realist and how it'll work on kind of any screen of any size that you want to use. Don't forget, here's another place where you can also favorite properties, and you can customize these cards too. So you see that we always try to give you, for example, the status, the sale price, the bedrooms and the bathrooms, and the square foot, and the address. But these three fields in here can be customized by you. So maybe I want to know right off the bat, not when this property sold. Maybe I want to know if it's owner occupied. Well, then you click on Customize Cards. And here are the three different sections: owner name, total assessed value, and sale date. So if I turn off sale date, and then I go into owner information and click on owner occupied, now at a glance on these cards, I can see if these homes are or are not owner occupied. So that's really all the customization you can do with cards. By the way, when you favorite properties, don't forget they're not only here in that star and on your dashboard, they're here in this little drop down. And you can actually click on Go to Saved Properties, and it'll allow you to, add or remove any of these from your saved properties if you want to, and you can keep some and not others. I'm going to toggle over to the table view right now. Oops, not the table view. Whoops, yes, I was going to toggle over to the table view. There you are. And here's your table view. Again, you can customize this in a lot of different ways. Number one, you can always click on any of these headers and sort. So I'm going to sort by recording date. First, when I click on it, it sorts. Come on. It sorts ascending, 1999, 2000, 2002. If I click on it again, it sorts descending, 2022 down to 2007. Other things that you can do here in terms of customized table. You can decide to maybe only check a couple of properties. These are the only 4 or 5 I'm interested in. And you can say, I'd like to narrow it down to just those properties, and that's it. And if you want to bring them back, click on Customize Table, reset to default list. There's also a way to view them a little bit smaller. I got about, 16 properties here on my list right now. If I go to compact mode, I get like 22 properties on my list. But if that's a little bit small and you can't read that, you can go back to default mode. The other thing to know is all these columns. You can customize these too. So this one will let you know where the photos are for these properties or the listing status for these properties. These other two are going to let you know of any foreclosures or any distressed sales there may be on these properties. So these are going to be the short sales and the bank-owned sales. These are going to be the bank-owned properties and those auction properties. And if you want to change your table at any time, click on Customize Table, Show Hide Columns. And now you've got the ability to say, well, I want owner name up here or address down there, or I don't want recording date, but I do want the no mail flag. So you decide which columns of data you want to see, which ones you don't, and in what order you want them to be too. And that's how you can customize the grid or the table here that you see in Realist. And let me go back to a split view for a moment and bring that search back. With that said, I've pretty much hit all the high points for you in Realist. You can log out here at the very top if you want to. I'll give you a couple of other, housekeeping items. If you order one of those reports, they'll be here in your shopping cart where, of course, you can check out, put your credit card in. Here's where your order history will be. Also, there's a little gear icon, settings. We'll go through that really briefly. Under search, that's where the most stuff is. You can auto open a property detail report when you only find one home. Remember I told you about the no mail list. And so you're asking, why are we even allowing you to print out those mailing labels? Well, there is a filter. So with this filter checked, you are allowed by us to print out these mailing labels that are on the do not mail list. What happens to you with the state of Montana is between you and Montana. But if you turn these off, like this uncheck, effectively what will happen is when you try to export any properties out of Realist in the form of labels, you're going to get a blank sheet of paper. You won't get anything. They won't be printed out because all the properties are on the do not mail list. You can also return any properties, or I should say up to as many as 3,000 properties in any search. Sale transactions include unmatched sale transactions. This is really helpful in areas of new construction. I always recommend, if you're looking for properties and it's brand new construction, we may not have gotten the tax ID for these properties yet, or at least the assessor's office hasn't, which means we don't get it either. But we may have a recorded deed of sale, from the builder or something like that. Those are unmatched sale transactions where we've just got a deed but no tax ID. I recommend checking this box if you ever are in an area of new construction and you're not finding the properties that you're looking for. You also might remember that I went through pretty much every single report, comparables and all the different preferences. We went through neighbors report and all the different preferences, the neighborhood profile report and all the different preferences. This is just another place that you can set those. You can set up your own email signature, just a basic text editor here, no photos, no links or anything like that. But you can put your name and your contact information in here so that any emails or anything you print out of Realist will have your email signature attached to it. And of course, you can decide to have your parcel lines turn on or off as a default. All right, with that said, folks, I'm about to let you go. But before I do, I just gave you a ton of information, and you might not remember all of it. By the way, I did record today's session, and you'll get an email thanking you for coming to today's session, probably within the next 24 hours after this session is done. And I'll be happy to provide that to you if you want to reply to that email. But I also want to point out, for those of you who kind of want to learn on your own, there is a user guide over here in the upper right-hand corner. It's in this question mark. And you can click on Go to User Guide. And this opens up a new window. You don't need to be logged into Realist to get to this. You can bookmark this if you want to. And, if you're still feeling like, oof, Realist is a little thick, I need to, still start easy here. I'll go to Getting Started. This will show you how to set your user preferences like we just did, or understanding how to do a search. Now, if you're someone who wants to do something more advanced, go to that Features Guide. And there's all kinds of information about, saving properties, exporting your search results, how to use the Realist map and all the boundaries and things like that. And if you're not someone who wants to read, you like videos, we've got video tutorials for you too. So we've got all these different videos, and you can watch them on YouTube if you want to as well. Hi, and welcome to this tutorial on Realist. Oh, that's a little loud, but those are all me. So I've put those together for you too. But that's a great resource for you if you have any questions about anything having to do with Realist. But with that, folks, I'll let you go. Sorry for taking an extra 7 minutes out of your life today. But I hope I showed you something today that's going to help you do your job. Again, Realist is a great tool. I've been showing you a lot about how to use Realist, but why you might want to use Realist is it's a great opportunity to find, again, any property anywhere in the entire state of Montana that you might have interest in, whether it's for an investment purposes or you want to solicit those folks, although we did talk about that. But I hope I gave you, again, a tool that's going to make your job a little bit easier today, going to help you go out there and sell some more homes, help make your clients happy, and make some money for yourself. So thanks again, folks. I do appreciate all your time. I don't see any questions. I do thank Keith for being here with me and listening to me drone on for the last hour about tax data. Hopefully I haven't put too many of you to sleep. But thanks again, folks. We appreciate your time. Take care. And please join us for some of our other sessions that we've been offering to you for all of our core logic products, including Matrix, MLS Touch, and One Home 2. Take care.